All right, welcome in. It's the Awesemo Odds Betting Show, the Awesemo Betting Show on the Awesemo Odds channel, where we invite you to hit that thumbs up button upon entry. Make sure you are subscribed to our channel. We want to thank Jordan producing the show today, BetMGM for powering the show with odds, and we'll tell you about a fantastic offer where you definitely should be taking advantage of, especially on such a heavily bet night like tonight, as we welcome in the man here who makes this show move, Ben Rasa at Jazz Raz DFS for Ben, at Shander Show for me. And we'll take as many of your lock it up bets. We do this each and every time we end the show, give you our strongest gut play. So from the chat, we always anticipate that there'll be something crazy going on, but for the most part, we'll take all of your lock it ups. Ben, Thursday Night Football, it's fantastic to do a show like this because we're so focused on one game. Maybe you might have something at the end that could spill over to Ohio, but everything that we're focused on tonight is Thursday Night Football.
No doubt NFL dominates Thursdays. That's the way it is all year. Wouldn't want it any other way. We got the season started on Thursday. You know, we were talking Cowboys, Buccaneers. Then we got the Monday night game. Now we're to another island game. I think the interesting part now, though, as the season progresses, Eitan, every time there's a Thursday game, we always talk about the short week. It's an atypical week. Guys, you know, the war of attrition begins even after week one. And there's a lot of storylines just based around that tonight with Washington and the Giants.
The quarterback play, the defense, and, you know, starting to look around. I want you to kind of navigate where to begin, but I'm just going to play. And, you know, I'm a huge fan of the narratives, of course, that both of these defenses getting to the quarterback and short fields and turnovers, that's going to factor a lot into how I play this game tonight. And I'm way more on the total than I am a side, even though if I were to pick a side, I feel like, and I'm sure you have thoughts on it, but it definitely feels like a Giants play, but I would rather just go heavy on the total for what that's worth.
Tough game. Spread feels about right. We see Washington at 3.5, mostly out there. Home favorites, divisional game. And yeah, I think where to start is let's just take a scope. It's only been 1 week, so we can dive in. We got the Giants.
We can overreact.
Yeah, we can I don't even think we need to with the Giants. They're just bad. The Broncos destroyed them. We talked about this last week. I like the Broncos in that game. That was one of my better bets of the NFL week. The Giants are just hurting. Ingram didn't play. Saquon played, but is it really Saquon yet? Obviously not. You know, Galladay, kind of a non-factor. Shepard was okay. And then Daniel Jones still doesn't seem like the answer. So you look at that. Then on Washington, you know, of course, Mostert was a big storyline, but Ryan Fitzpatrick amongst the biggest injuries of anyone across the league. And now they have to turn to their backup quarterback. How does that affect them? I mean, that's my first question to you. What do you make of Heinicke? Is that a guy that you trust, or do you think that's a massive storyline tonight?
Gigantic storyline, just like Daniel Jones as a human embodiment of a turnover is a massive storyline. Both of these guys in backup to Jones, most likely having a future as a backup quarterback, marrying itself together here. And that's why I love the under, the over, where a lot of people like, I see your face already. Okay, and it was a slip by me. Yep. A lot of people are heavy on the under. And look, I've been wrong countless times, but what I look at it, and I see our buddy John Shelton here, fan of the show on the chat, lock it up. We are riding with the over tonight. I think you're going to see a lot of pressure on these quarterbacks, especially from Washington's front. The Giants are going to be able to, at times, get to Heinicke as well. You're not going to see many risks, but look, if it's 3rd and 10, 3rd and 11, and you're dealing with an insane pass rush, that's the difference of punting from maybe your 45 as opposed to punting from your 20, or even deeper as far as your own red zone that you're punting out of. I think you're going to see a lot of short field, which is going to make it much easier for both of these quarterbacks. And look, from interceptions to fumbles while being sacked, I think you're going to see a lot of the defense control the game, but it's going to lead to short field, and that's where I think points get scored. I'm not asking Daniel Jones nor Tyler Heinicke to lead 10-play, 95-yard drives, Ben. I'm just asking them to take advantage of 25 to 35-yard fields.
Daniel Jones, definitely. I get that. I think he draws. I mean, he's on the road. I would rather be going against the Giants defense than Washington's. I worry about in that regard. I think Heinicke, though, will take care of the ball more often. He's got some experience. I like his cast of weapons. He's got a good tight end. He's got McLaurin. He's got Gibson, who we're going to talk about a lot in this show. And he's got that defense. So I would assume that Washington's plan for their quarterback is don't screw it up, where I don't think the Giants have that luxury. Because, I mean, I don't think this is not even a hot take. Saquon is not going to be a major factor tonight. I don't see how they're going to, off a mini break like this, rush him back. He's been adamant that it's not a great situation coming, with a quick turnaround like this off the major injuries. So if they don't have the running game, Daniel Jones has to make some plays unless the Giants defense really stands tall. And if they do, again, I don't know where these points are coming from. So it's a very low total. You got 40.5 out there.
Yeah.
I get it. It's just, if there are no turnovers, then what? Then these teams are really going to struggle, because I don't see either quarterback manufacturing those long drives that you talked about.
You're right. So, and by the way, Greg, I see in the chat as well, Greg SJ1 hashtag overs club. See, we're starting to pull people. I can guarantee you this. This is the safest bet I could say all show, bet, is that I'm not going to be able to pull you over to the side, right?
No, I'm not betting the over tonight. I'm going to bet some type of under. I haven't bet the actual total yet. I'll tell you what I did bet. I bet under 18.5 for the Giants team total tonight. I don't see, again, Washington, there could always be turnovers, but I think they will take care of the ball. I don't know how the Giants are going to manufacture points. They had 13 last game. They felt fortunate to get there. I think Washington's defense is outstanding. I really trust this pass rush, of course, Chase Young. And then I trust the running game. So that's going to be something we're going to dive in more too. But how the hell are the Giants going to get 3 touchdowns? I want to hear this, because Danny Dimes ain't doing it.
He's not doing it again from his own 20. And I'm going to give you that there'll be stalled drives. But look, and I'm playing into, it's a primetime game. There are going to be some chances down the field. What I'm looking at are 2 things. One, I don't need to look, I'll take the turnovers all day. But to your point about what if there aren't any turnovers, I still think both quarterbacks are going to be facing 3rd and long against Washington, clearly, and then Giants to a lesser extent, a pass rush that can cause some problems. Daniel Jones, Barkley, whatever his situation may be as far as active or just not doing anything on the field, that's not going to help Daniel Jones either. So I think the short field is really what I'm banking on more so. I'll take turnovers. Turnovers are a fantastic variable that I can't count on, but I'll definitely take, Ben. But I think more so it's about your point about the defense and where people are sliding on the defense. Yeah, long drives, there will not be many points manufactured. Maybe a penalty helps, maybe a PI, something like that helps. But I'm looking at it more so where both of these quarterbacks are actually so bad collectively, not that Heinicke is a disaster, but so bad collectively that I can count on shorter fields. And that's where I think I can get lucky.
Maybe
41. That's a key number. I can get to 41. I can get to 44.
Good. I hope I don't mind if it gets to 44, if it's 44-0. I just don't want the Giants scoring. Maybe this is let me ask Chad. Chad, feel free to chime in on this as well. Is Taylor Heinicke that bad? Is he? Honestly, like, I know he's not great, but I don't put him as the worst starter in the league. I really don't.
I'm interested to see, and maybe we need a poll up here as well, as I see Jordan is active as well with anything we'll get from the chat regarding Heinicke. I think for the most part, we have to look at the circumstance. Washington knew they needed to stabilize the quarterback position to have a shot at winning a division that was not great over the last couple of years. And they chose to go with Ryan Fitzpatrick over the kid that they have right now. So I think, at least from an internal standpoint, Washington has confidence in Heinicke, knowing that you're going to have to go to him at some point, and chances are that Fitzpatrick's going to get hurt. But he still didn't have that confidence that would say, no, let's just roll with Heinicke this year. So I think that's pretty telling. That's that would be my response.
I that's totally fair, totally reasonable. I kind of look at it the other way, that Taylor Heinicke was not in their plans at all, and he was more impressive than I think they thought in a ridiculous situation at the end of the year there, when he was thrust into major action, that he actually became a somewhat important role as a backup, and they felt comfortable putting him there. A lovely poll by us. Is Taylor Heinicke that bad? I'm going to vote right now. But it's a situation where I still
I
think as a
voted too,
game
by the way.
manager, he could be okay. I don't think he's going out and winning games, but I look at his line tonight, even for something like this. Will Taylor Heinicke throw an interception? Yes. Is minus 140. No at plus 105. Okay. That's, they're saying probably has one out there, but it's nothing egregious. Daniel Jones is certainly higher than that. I think he can take care of the ball, and I wouldn't be stunned to see Washington still as a pretty formidable opponent in the East overall.
So I think to your point about Heinicke being good and better than that bad, you do realize if you're Washington that there's a really strong chance that old ass Fitzpatrick is going to miss some time, a game, a month, whatever it may be. He's just up there and his body's got tread on it. So you can't just roll out another dude. Like you can't just roll out Joe Flacco behind Ryan Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
right? You're going to need somebody that is not just competent, but somebody that could step in and really take over and still lead your team. So that's where I would agree with you that there's something here with Heinicke. And maybe that factors into the game plan tonight where it's like, look, we're at home, just be good enough. I don't know what that means for guys like Terry McLaurin, though, because I think it's easier to just move the ball to someone like McKissick and Thomas in that short to deep middle of the field, probably mid of the field. But if you don't have Heinicke throwing an interception, which I assume that's what you mean by fading that over, right? Where you would go under for plus money.
I mean, I don't think I'm going to bet that. I think it just shows that it wouldn't be a drastic upset if this guy keeps it clean today. The books are shading it a little to the over, but it's not like he's minus 200 to throw an interception or anything.
Right.
And yeah, he probably throws one, but it's no slam dunk. That's for sure.
So I think if you look at the under, we have it at BetMGM, and again, use our promo code Awesemo for a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's it. Awesemo, AWESEMO. Make sure you like what you see here. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the Awesemo Odds, the Awesemo Fantasy Football, and the Awesemo DFS channel. You should be subscribed to all three, but here, as far as what we're doing, make sure that you are subscribed. That button right next to the thumbs up. We have it at plus 105, which again is going to be, as you mentioned, the fade there on the juice at minus 140 at BetMGM for over. So if you're just looking at it from an under standpoint and somebody's betting that under a half a pick, he's not going to turn the ball over. How much does that really factor in? Because I think it would, as far as looking at either staying away from Washington receivers and their over-unders, player props as far as receiving yards, or starting to fade some unders, knowing that there probably won't be many risks taken at all down the field.
Yeah, I think it's a tough spot for those guys that ideally Washington wants to lean on the defense and lean on certainly Gibson. And we're going to get that. That's really my best prop, and it's something we're going to dive into. But you look at McLaurin on the outside, more of a home run threat, over under 5.5. I just don't know how many passing attempts a guy like Heinicke is going to even have in this game. So yeah. I would have to go under there. I'll be honest. It was a weird game to open the season. I'm not reading too much into it, but McLaurin only had 4 targets in that game against the Chargers. I wouldn't be stunned to see have a pedestrian line here. So he's either going to have to be hyper efficient or they're going to be trailing and trying to play catch up. I don't see that happening. Not because I think they're going to blow him out, just because I think the game is going to be more unveiled on the ground. So I'm going to short McLaurin tonight. I think he has a pretty modest day.
Poll update, by the way, no 55% leading. Michael Peterson on the chat. He is between 22, 25 best quarterback in the league. I
think that's pretty spot on. I'll be honest. Because he's not, if I needed a
22?
guy on, I mean, 22 might be a little much, but I separate quarterbacks into 2 things. If I was on a team like Washington that has pieces that are really solid, I would want Taylor Heinicke. If I was on the Jaguars or the Texans, well, having a game manager is not going to do anything. You're just going to lose less bad. That's not going to help. You need someone crazy who can go out and make hero plays and maybe steal a game or 2. But on a team like this, they don't need a guy. Drew Lock would be like the worst fit in the league for Washington. I think that would be ridiculous. He could single-handedly tank the team, but a guy like this, very steady, it's going to be good. But as you said, Eitan, it might not be the best thing for the skill position players, particularly on the outside.
The only guy I'm thinking about, well, two guys I'm thinking about before I swing it back to you as far as on the ground, because I think there's an obvious name here. And Lofty was hitting us up earlier on the Slack about keeping an eye on Gibson as well. So before we look at Gibson on the ground, just to kind of wrap up maybe it's a collective fade, if you will, to apply that term here, where if you're looking at Henneke not taking any risks and the impact we said for the skill players, McKissick and I think Logan Thomas become a little appealing here. Now, you're not going to get any break at all on the receiving yards. You're going to minus 115 across the board, but receptions might be an area where 2.5 receptions for McKissick is minus 105. That's a little bit of a break compared to the 130 you'd lay to go under that. And for Thomas, it's the same number at minus 105 for 4.5. So if we are talking about a guy who's throwing, and he's going to throw more than 16, 17 times, keeping it in that middle of the field range, McKissick receptions, Logan Thomas receptions, especially with that return compared to what else I'm laying, become more appealing to me following this narrative.
I just don't know. So it's only 1 week. I don't want to overreact. McKissick was just a non-factor at all. He played about a third of the snaps, but he only saw one target. Again, it wasn't massive volume for Washington, but the thing that might be most concerning is that Antonio Gibson saw 5 targets. Normally we see it where McKissick is gobbling up all those running back passes, and he's that guy. I still think he has that role on this team, but maybe there's something to that. So normally I would look at this and say, oh my God, McKissick, he should have 1 million receptions, but maybe there's a shift where they're more comfortable saying, Gibson, this is really your backfield. Even when in passing downs, we're going to look to you for the dump offs.
There's no value at all. I mean, it's minus 150 on the over, but to your point about getting a return on that where it hits, if they continue it, one thing I'm interested in though to see is how much the game plan changes, not just as we see week to week for matchup, but to not get totally caught up in what happened last week because your quarterback goes down.
Yep.
And right. I mean, that could have changed. I don't know. Maybe the offense didn't change at all. They ran the exact same script they wanted to run, or maybe it changed drastically, or maybe the quarterback didn't have a week to practice with guys. Point being is that I don't know necessarily if I want to totally write off McKissick, but to your point about Gibson, if you wanted to slam that number, knowing it would hit at minus 150, 2.5 is low for Gibson. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of them is certainly going to be in line for the targets because Henneke seems, again, more like a game manager, and he's going to be apt to do that. But, you know, we've got into the game a little bit. We've talked about, I like the under in the Giants. You like the over in the game. Talked about McLaurin a little bit. Let's get to it. Antonio Gibson tonight. I don't understand this rushing yards line. It's at 67.5. Okay, let's dig into it. In the first game, he had 20 carries. So he needs to average, if he gets 20 carries, basically 3.5 yards per carry. He averaged 4.5 yards per carry against the Chargers. He had 20 for 90 yards. In this game with the backup quarterback against the Giants front, who I don't think is terrible, but in the week 1, they were dead last in the entire league in rushing yards allowed per attempt. Part of that, of course, is Melvin Gordon ripped off a 70-yard touchdown at the end of the game. But still, how does Gibson not get the workload to put him in good position to have more than 67.5 yards tonight on the ground?
Doesn't make much sense. I know you, Lofty, and others have looked at that number and questioned it, to say the least. You're right. From a volume standpoint, he's in line to, especially with what you mentioned with McKissick, regardless of what happened in the passing game with only one target, he's not taking carries away on the ground from Gibson by any means, especially in this matchup. The only thing is maybe they get up so much, but that's just not in this, at least these rivalries history, that Washington would blow this team out. Yeah, I'm looking at it here. It's minus 115, both sides on BetMGM. Use our promo code Awesemo for that risk-free bet of 1,000. I'm with you, man. It makes too much sense here to just not play the over 67.5. That number does appear low.
Oh, a couple things here. One, yeah, you could use your risk-free bet on this prop, which we get. Also, we have to mention this. This offer, that's not, if that wasn't good enough, you get 3 free months of Awesemo Plus Platinum if you use that deposit in our description of this video.
Wow.
So if you deposit on BetMGM, you are going to get the risk-free bet but you also get 3 months of all of our content. That is a true no-brainer. We did this with Yahoo, and we're doing it now on the betting side of things. So if you have not signed up at BetMGM, this is the time to do it. Look who just showed up in chat. Eric Lindquist, Saquon over 38.5 rushing yards. You do, in fact, take money.
Why? But here's the thing. Why? And this is my question to Eric and to you, who's going to answer for Eric. Why? Why would you even want to put money on anything Saquon Barkley related coming into this football game? Like, why? That's like Russian roulette with your money. There's a chance that that bullet may go off.
Yeah, that's Turkish roulette where there's only one chamber that's empty. It's just, that's going to end poorly more often than not. I really don't know what we get out of Saquon tonight. I feel like that's a situation that could be really, really dangerous. So I have no issues with dabbling on some Saquon things here and there, but on a short week on a Thursday, I think you need to be very, very careful there.
There's one interesting prop. And by the way, Derek Carr over 5.5, cash it. We didn't bring that up from last week. And
Lamar
yes,
Jackson,
I was watching,
baby. He got there.
Yeah, you crushed that. I just wanted to make sure that Carr slid in there.
Absolutely. Good job. Good work.
Here's the thing. Tonight, let's assume the best case scenario is that Saquon Barkley's at 50%, which I think is fair. I mean, there's a chance he could still not play tonight. He hasn't officially been ruled in.
Yeah.
So we're going from on one area, him not playing. I'm not going to say on the other side of it, he rushes for 120 yards, all banged up. I don't think that's happened. I think that he's out there on a short week, forced out there for better or worse, banged up. Point being is that they're not going to rely on him normally. Maybe the game script won't call for it. We also know that the Giants offensive line is more non-existent than actually alive. 20.5 rushing yards for Daniel Jones. And yes, I'm quarterback rush happy, and I'm trying to keep my momentum going from that Carr play last week. But Jones over 20.5 from running for his life when the offensive line breaks down, Ben, to trying to compensate with a little more design runs, even and especially if Saquon is not out there. 20.5 seems pretty reasonable for a guy who can move with his feet, and we've seen him break big plays.
I have no problem with that. You mentioned the pass rush is going to be coming after him. He's going to have to make plays because, in the first game, Saquon, he had 10 carries in that game. I don't know if he's even going to get to double-digit carries tonight. I honestly think that might be on the higher side of his volume. Yeah. And if that's not the case, they might have to rely on Daniel Jones just, trying to be a dual threat to keep this defense honest, because they're going to be bearing down on him. There's no doubt about it. And, if he's dropping back 40 times and they're trailing, he'll pick that up just by default with broken plays, running for his life. As you mentioned, sacks don't count. It's not like college football where sacks count against your rushing total. So he could take 10 sacks. It doesn't matter. If he gets 21 positive yards, you're going to get there. So I'm with you. I think Gibson still, just to circle back to that, is in the kill spot, because you said something earlier, and I get it. If Washington gets up so much, I feel like if they do, it has to be because of Gibson, and he already got there. I feel it really unlikely to think this passing attack dismantles the Giants, and Gibson is non-existent in putting up those points early.
Terry McLaurin, 5.5. Before we get to one final thing to look at with Daniel Jones that you'll kind of wrap up this Monday night discussion with, and anything else that we want to jam in here with the chat. Again, your lock it up best bet of the night, specifically here for Thursday night football. We had a couple people riding with me on the over 40.5. Rasa will not be there, so don't waste your time right now trying to pull him over there. The poll has shifted, by the way.
What?
Is Taylor Heineke that bad? 53% now on yes.
What, you get the bot form going? I know how you operate. No respect.
I'm not sure.
You're going to see tonight.
Here's my would you take a shot on McLaurin only grabbing 5 catches tonight and hitting that under 5.5 for even money on BetMGM?
I feel okay with that. That's one that I think if you're making a card full of player props behind Gibson, you can do that, because again, McLaurin had 4 targets in week 1. Heineke doesn't want to throw the ball if they don't have to. And if they get ahead, he could have a very pedestrian, low 20s in attempts. So you look at a lot of those, I think will be more safety valve type. McLaurin's more of a deep threat. He's a great player, so it's not like he can't do it, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him again in that 3 to 4 reception range, not a ton of targets, especially in this game, because again, they lost to, I almost said San Diego. They lost to the Chargers. In this one, they could be really dominating and controlling tempo. That's going to make them even less incentivized to throw the ball late.
Yeah, I love that. So you can really build a lot around Gibson going over the 67.5 as like that key spot to then build around everybody else being impacted by it, especially Heineke himself not taking many risks. Now you have one with Jones that I absolutely love. Look, we can't really play unless this is a parlay, which I would definitely throw in there really quick. If people want to work something on another game or something else that we give out, I definitely think over a half interception. Unfortunately, you're laying 160 on it, so take that for what it's worth. But over a half interception for Daniel Jones feels like a really strong play for me based on just how many risks, especially in a game where we're talking about Barkley being limited. They may not be good enough to move the football down the field, but it doesn't mean he's not going to try. And that's going to result in turnovers. It may be 2 fumbles and a pick. It may be 3 picks and a fumble, whatever it may be. But I think if you can work that in there, but yours is better. I definitely like yours better.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's all the same concept for me. It's shorting the Giants offense. I don't trust this team at all against this defense. So I like under 18.5 points for the team. I also like under 1.5 passing touchdowns for Daniel Jones. It's very, very, very chalky, minus 200, but I honestly have the line even higher than that. So I'm comfortable with that. If your site allows you to parlay props, I think it's a fine parlay piece. I just don't see them manufacturing a ton of offense. He can also run it in. We saw him run a touchdown in yesterday. Of course, that's not going to count, and that's good news if you shorted it. So we've got that. Eric, this is a good strategy. There's a 49.5 Saquon rushing in another spot. Combine it with over 38.5 and play the middle. Yes, you can definitely do that. 11-yard middle on a rushing prop is definitely plus EV. Yep.
Well, I tell you, man, that Lindquist is sharp. I know you rip him all the time. Every chance you get, Ben Rasa, you take a shot at Eric Lindquist, but that guy's sharp.
Not me. No, I don't take shots at anybody. I'm a nice guy. He's my golf partner on the Live Before Lock. I got to keep him happy. So we got that couple more.
Good point.
Eitan. These are interesting. Donald.
Awesemo, you see him?
Yeah. Logan Thomas under 48.5 yards. Okay. So again, maybe shorting that Washington passing attack. This one though, Cam Sims is the move tonight. Interesting.
Ooh, Cam Sims from Donald Monday. You like that? You sound intrigued by that.
I think that's more of obviously you guys know we will have Thursday night showdown content leading you up to lock. He might be a showdown type play. I don't think he's relevant in the betting industry tonight, though.
Not at all. Nothing. You can't even really work him for the most part as far as anything really great here. So
here's the question. Go ahead.
What's that?
No, I was going to say, Will Washington, chat wants to know. You think, I know I said you would grab the 3.5 if you had to take a position.
So here's the thing. There's just something about these two matchups and the NFC East. I don't trust Washington at home in a backup spot. I think stability is the biggest element that is lacking without Fitzpatrick. He's not the best quarterback by any means, but you know what you're getting there. I like Washington in a money line play. If you could work that at minus 175, be nice to work that with something else. And we'll give you plenty as far as before we get out of here. 3.5 at home, a divisional rival that is super desperate, that has a sneaky, okay defense. I don't want any part of this spread at all. Shame on you for forcing me to make a play on it.
It's a tough one. If I could find 3, I would definitely lay the points rather than take them if I had to. Because it's funny. Maybe this is just me, but all I hear about are people saying, the Giants, season's going to be lost already. They're 0-1. They need it. Washington needs the game a hell of a lot more than the Giants. Washington's 0-1 too. They have to have this game. You can't be dropping a home divisional game and moving to 0-2. So I think they're extremely desperate as well. And I think they will get the win tonight. So I'm with you. 3.5 is an ugly line. You could lose by the hook a lot there.
Yeah, at home.
Yeah, but I think
Isn't
Washington will get it done.
So think about that, though. And this goes back to why I really like the total more so than anything else, to Steve Adams' question about covering the spread. And Rozo Music has one on Galladay that we'll get to in just 1 second. Hit that thumbs up button as you see more people pop in here. Make sure you remind them as the same, and hit that subscribe button so that you are fully subscribed to the Awesemo Odds channel. But to the point about how desperate both teams really are coming into this game, desperation breeds tightness, breeds mistakes. Just keep that in mind. Short field, turnovers. Keep going back to that theme here tonight. But Kenny Galladay, 3.5. And I saw you respond on chat, Ben, as far as seems like a pretty reasonable reception to go over prop.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones, I think efficiency is going to be the problem. Not that he can't get guys the ball. And even more so, it's all about volume. He threw the ball 37 times in week 1. He only completed 22. But if you're going to tell me there's 37 targets to go around again, Galladay, I think, can grab more than his fair share. Kyle Rudolph, that's an interesting one. I think they're really missing Evan Ingram. He's a lot more dynamic, but maybe they will look to the tight end a little more. I know Rudolph has been battling his own injuries, but at the same time, if he could give them a little more, he had 5 targets in that first game. So maybe Daniel Jones will continue to utilize him in the passing attack tonight. I think there will be targets to go around a lot more on the Giants side than Washington side. That's for sure.
Yeah, Rudolph McCall 574 in the chat, bringing up Rudolph there as well, as far as, having a night. I think we've cleaned a lot on this game, just making sure that there isn't any bizarre or wild plus 700 1-game parlay that I can't sneak by you here. I'm sure you've looked, though, at the very least.
I had to look because I needed to be prepared for all the shenanigans you may throw at me during this show.
All right, here's the biggest contrarian play, but man, it's almost like, why not place a half a unit on it if you're going over the score here? Although, look, I'm going over 40.5. I'm not going over like equals a shootout, but you could look at the bottom one at plus 900 on BetMGM. And again, use our promo code Awesemo for not only a risk-free bet up to $1,000, but 3 full months of Awesemo Plus, which Lofty told us is $100 a month value. So you're getting an extra $300 value in return, but you can turn that money into a lot of money by applying all the tools on site. All right, Galladay 85 plus, McLaurin 100 plus. It's not crazy in the sense of it's like the biggest contrarian bet you could make based on what everybody thinks is going to happen, but at least we've seen these guys throw the ball. It's just we all believe coming into this game they're going to be held tightly to the vest.
Yeah, I mean, you would need a specific game script there, that the game really gets back and forth. But that's going to be a tough sell again. I think Washington's going to control the tempo and control the narrative of the game. And that is lean on Gibson, lean on the defense, force Daniel Jones to take sacks, to make mistakes, to have multiple turnovers, convert those short fields, and not let Taylor Heinicke should not even be. If Washington has their way, he will be a footnote on this game. He will be 15 of 20 for like 150 yards and 1 touchdown. That's the ideal scenario for them. If he's throwing it 35 times, the Giants are going to win the game, I feel like.
So look at the top one then. Plus 675 is at least a little bit more reasonable. You like the total, at least first half, the team total for the Giants under 40.5 in the game. Heinicke under 300 yards passing. I mean, come on, my goodness. And then Washington has to win by 10.
Yeah, that's not bad. I mean, that's really Chase Young forces a turnover or 2. They convert short fields. Washington kind of blows them out, but they're not reliant on the passing game, and the Giants offense is unable to do anything. We got some Giants plus right 4 love in chat. Okay, I respect that.
Alfonso Scott must know that I'm an Eagles fan. Giants plus 4. Well, look, if you can get the Giants at 3.5, I'm okay
Yeah,
with.
4 is a good number.
Is an amazing number. Yeah. And again, I know that I think that's what it opened up, or at least what people got in. Maybe it moved earlier in the week at that to 4, but I remember seeing that very briefly, jumping in, still staying off the side. But yeah, Giants +4, I think, is the biggest no-brainer you could get. And great job on Alfonso jumping on that. He's under 41. Still think that
That's
if you're
right.
looking at that number, it's fine. The push is in play, but I would definitely still go over on that.
No, under, baby. That's a
You
tough
like
total.
the under on the total? I thought you were just under team total Giants and under first half.
I mean, I definitely prefer the under on the Giants team total more, because I think there's a chance Washington does have some effective offense tonight. So I have really no real play on this total. I just like to needle you, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I love that you do, by the way.
That's what we do. You're sporting your Eagle. You should be happy. Your division is in shambles. The Cowboys ran out of players. These two Jagaloon teams are all messed up. The Eagles are going to win this division by default the way it's going.
Well, we should bring that futures play up then and see how confident you are.
No,
because I'm sure the value has dipped significantly, right? As far as the NFC East is concerned. And that's the difference, is anybody who jumped in at the start of the season, then you got great value. But now we're just pretty much looking at whether or not, I'm sure, as what you mentioned with the Cowboys losing Gallup and losing guys left and right, that the Eagles have been thrust up at the top of that division or close to it. Washington, I'm interested to see when Fitzpatrick comes back. But yeah, look, I'm happy overall. 2 TDs for Gibson. Josh plays DFS on the chat.
2 TDs for Gibson. I mean, you're going to get some good odds there. I really don't hate it. Again, I think there's a real chance that Washington leans on him heavily. And
plus 320 on BetMGM, Ben, for 2+ TDs for Gibson.
I don't mind any type of, I mean, the way I do props with all this stuff is there's 2 things, and we've talked about this, Eitan. You got to get the player, and then you got to find the right position with it. Like, obviously, I like Gibson overs tonight. I think he's going to go over his rushing yards. I think he probably scores. So it's just, where are you getting the most value, in terms of the odds, and you're not sacrificing probability of success. So if you really think that he can get there in a big way, maybe you do take a multiplier like that. And yeah, if you shop that around, you might be able to get some different lines. So I don't mind that. I think over 67.5 is really where I'm laser focused today, but I'm on board with Gibson in all formats.
Last one that I saw here on the chat before we close it down, hitting you with our lock it up, strongest, best bet of the night, could even be of the weekend. You never know. I saw this from Big and Beastly. Shepard under 59.5 yards.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I'll be honest, we like to be transparent on this show. I'd love to give a hot take for every single prop. I just don't know.
There are plenty that you'll stay away from.
Yeah, I think this is a pass for me. Shepard looked good in week 1. Daniel Jones really locked onto him. 7 receptions on 9 targets for $113 and a touchdown. I'm assuming he's going to get some serious looks, but I do think Galladay and these other guys will regress positively as the year comes on. So feels about right. If you've got a lean there, more power to you. It doesn't really affect what I want to do. So I hope he goes under 59.5. That'd probably be good for me.
Anything before we lock it up and get out of here, anything week 2 that you want to get out now before something moves, or you're anticipating movement, or you just like that number and you don't think it's going to last?
Yeah, I mean, with the NFL, certainly there's definitely some potential there. I'm gonna go to this, and man, I am a little nervous, but I still think that the Bears at 2.5 is a good number. I think Chicago is going to beat the Bengals this week at home. I know they look dysfunctional. I think that's more of a product that the Rams are really, really good. So when you see 2.5 and you have a lean on the game, if you're laying the points, you got to kind of lock that in early, because that is such a key number. You don't want it to move to 3. And if it moves to 2, it's not that big a deal. Yeah, you're losing a little value, but moving to 3 is so drastic. I think that's the one spread that I kind of want to get in right now, because there's no reason to wait if I like the Bears, and I do.
I'll slide this one in here because I think it's going to have the opposite effect on the movement, where I really like Minnesota with that hook on the road.
Okay.
Major comeback to the middle for Arizona game. Minnesota probably should have won that game outside of that bad call with Dalvin Cook last week. So I don't have any concerns about the Vikings on the road, especially defensively here. Getting that hook, I think, is going to be a major difference now as it gets closer and closer. I think that evaporates. So that's where I'd slide in at Minnesota plus 3.5.
Again, makes total sense, because if it, you're getting a really good number there. If you lean to the Vikings, doesn't mean just blindly back all the numbers that have the right hooks. But if you're already on those sides, there's no value in waiting, but there's a ton of value in locking it up early, because you're securing a really positive number for you.
Speaking of lock it up, you'll hit us up. Lock it up. Ben Ross is going to give you the best bet of the night. Here's Lindquist lock it up. Under 13.5 rushing yards for McKissick.
You know what? The man himself, Alex Baker, has been doing an amazing job of finding these type of things. They're not interesting. They're not fun, but they win. He was all over Giovanni Bernard under 9 yards rushing in that opening game. The guy had no carries. You can find these type of lines and you can take advantage. So McKissick might only have 1 or 2 carries. If he doesn't have a really effective run, you're there.
All right, my lock it up. It's plain, it's simple. I've been serving it up to you and everybody else all day here. It's the over 40.5. Lock it up. Ben Rasa, as always, you cleanse the palate left by my nonsense and get us with a real lock it up.
I know you're on board with this one. This is a team effort one. Gibson over 67.5 rushing yards at minus 115. Of course, it doesn't mean you're always going to get there, but if he has 20 carries tonight, you need him to average 3.5 yards per carry. I think he can absolutely do that. And I don't know why the volume wouldn't be there in a game script like this with a backup quarterback at home. So that is one on the breakfast menu with me and Josh this morning, which you should always check out right here on the Awesemo Odds channel. I laid down 3 strips of bacon for that. That's one of my bigger prop bets of the entire year. I think this is a spot you could really take advantage of. And I wouldn't be stunned, Eitan, to see by kickoff this at 70.5 or minus 150 along those lines, because this is not going to last.
At Jazzraz DFS on Twitter for Ben, at Shander Show for me. Thanks to Jordan. Thank him in the chat. Thanks to everybody who was a part of this, giving us your lock it ups of the night, of the week. Go over all day. We'll be back tomorrow, 1:00 Eastern, and look deep into not only week 2 of the NFL, but also week 3 of college football, and take advantage of that risk-free bet. My goodness, $1,000 will match up to that at BetMGM. Use our promo code Awesemo, and we'll also throw in 3 full months of Awesemo Plus. Can't beat that. Keep it here. We got a lot of things happening, including myself and Eric right here coming up with Yahoo. We appreciate you on the DFS channel. So we appreciate you hanging with us here. Make sure you're subscribed to the Awesemo Odds channel. Have a great day.